All right, so this is going to be the second review for the Business Econ final. This is mainly going to go over Chapter 2, which is about taxes and deductions to your pay. Oops. Um, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, so we'll start things off a little bit easy with taxes. So, I mean, that sounds kind of redundant, that easy taxes. But anyway, we had kind of a few sources of taxes: federal income tax, state income tax, social security tax, Medicare tax, and then while there really wasn't a health insurance tax per se, health insurance was kind of grouped into this situation as well, just because it's very similarly calculated. So tax in general is applied as a percentage of a certain amount. So again, if you have like a 5% tax, it's 5% of whatever you make. So just a quick recap, if you want to take the percent of a number, you simply take the percentage and you convert it into a decimal, and then you multiply it by the number you want to take the percent of, and you get that percentage. Right? That's all it is. And so we're going to be doing that quite a bit in these examples here. So federal income tax, also known as FIT, that can be done one of two ways. It can be done using a table in your book, which is found at page A2. Um, you, it's based on your weekly payment. So if you get paid something other than weekly, you have to convert it into a weekly amount. So if you get paid a yearly amount, which is more common, you would take that and divide it by 12, or sorry, divide it by 52, and that will get you your weekly amount that you can then look up at the table, and it will give you your weekly federal income tax withholdings. So you'll times your weekly withholdings by 52 to get your yearly withholdings. Withholdings is just a kind of another way of saying payment, because usually what happens is that your employer, each time they pay you, will withhold some for federal income tax, and then they'll pay it. And then the percentage model is simply using a different kind of table that calculates your income tax via a percentage. And we'll do both methods here. So we'll start with the percentage method, and then we'll do the table method a little bit later, because that's all that is just looking stuff up in a table. So the percentage method. We have Emma here, who earns a weekly salary of 1,300 and claims 3 dependents or allowances. What is her federal income tax? So it says right here that each allowance is worth 63.46. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take away those dependents. Because a dependent or an allowance is stuff that you get taken out of your salary that isn't taxed. So we're going to first deduct those. So 1,300 minus 63.46 times 3, because there's 3 dependents. So let's figure out what that is here. So we have 1,300 minus 63.48 times 3, and that gives us with 1109.56. 1109.56. So this is what we call her taxable income. This is what's actually going to get taxed. Now, using the percentage method, we're going to figure out, okay, which category does she fall under? And in this case, she falls in this category right here. She's over $645, but under $1,482. So if you're within this table right here, you're going to go over to this, and this is going to tell you what to do. The amount she's going to pay is going to be $81.90. She's going to definitely pay that, plus an additional 25% of the excess over 645. So what that means is you're going to take the amount of money that her taxable income is, 1109.56, and you're going to subtract it by 645. So again, this over 645, over 195, over 51, that's what gets subtracted out of this taxable income here. And then you're going to times that by 25 or 0.25 here, because you're only going to take 25% of it. So that excess over simply means take your value and subtract it by this number before taking 25% of it and then adding it into the other number. So we do all this big mess here. So 8190 plus, let's do 1109.56 minus 645. And then we're going to times that by 0.25. And we get a grand total of 198.04. So 198.04. And again, this is a weekly amount, because again, this is all based on a weekly payment. So if I want to take this and times it by 52, I get her yearly federal income tax withholdings, right? But basically what this means is that every time she gets paid, her employer is going to take out this much from her check to pay the federal income tax. So state income tax is a little bit different. State income tax, well, actually, it's not too much different, but it's usually based off a flat percentage that's applied to what you earn in a year. So again, it's more of a yearly thing than a weekly thing. But again, you do get deductions, so you get to take out $2,000 if you're single, or $4,000 if you're married, and then each dependent you claim is usually 2,000. Now these kind of vary state by state, but that's the general outline for them. Um, so let's go here. So Sarah earns $38,000 for the year, and she's single but claims no dependents. So right away, before I even read the percentage, I'm going to take $38,000 and take out $2,000 because she's single. So basically, she gets to save $2,000 from being taxed. So she's only going to get taxed on $36,000. Now the tax rate is 5%. So we're going to take $36,000 because that's how much she's going to get taxed as her taxable income, and times it by 0.05 to figure out how much income tax to give the state, quote unquote, give the state. So 0.05, and that's 1,800. So $1,800. So that's how much she would have to pay the state in um, income tax. M here is the same deal, but she's married and claims two dependents, so she's going to take more out. So we're going to have 4,200. Ugly. 4,200 minus, let's see here. She's married, so that's $4,000. And then two dependents, so that's another 2,000 for each dependent. And so in total, she is going to be taking out or saving 4,200 minus, let's see, 4,000 plus another 4,000 is 8,000, so minus 8,000. 3,400. So she's going to only get taxed on $3,400 of income, but her state tax, or 34,000, I should say, right? Yeah, 34,000. But her tax rate is 7.5%. So we're going to take 34,000 and we're going to times it by this as a decimal, so jump this up twice, and we get 0.0745. And let's see what that comes out to be. So times 0.0745, and we get $2,533. $2,533. And that is her state income tax. So again, it's really not any different than federal. It's just that you have to take out different amounts. Federal had its own deductions right there. Again, that was the weekly tax deduction. State has its own deductions based on your marriage status and your child status. Remember, a dependent is usually taken out because you're taking care of a child or an elderly family member, but not necessarily. You can technically take it out for almost anything. Now, there's a special type of tax system that some states have called the graduated tax system, which basically means they're going to charge you a higher tax rate depending on how much money you make past a certain amount. And this is actually what was, for those of you that were watching this in 2020, this is actually what the Illinois governor proposed Illinois would do, not these exact rates, but proposed what Illinois should do rather than its flat tax. So Illinois is a flat tax state currently, and through the election now it is also still, which means that it charges everybody, no matter who you are, no matter how much you make, you're going to get charged a flat rate of 4.95% currently in Illinois. The governor Governor Pritzker, I believe, wanted to change that to be a graduated system like this. So let's see what this graduated system does. Basically what it does is it's going to take how much you earn in the year and it's going to split it into categories. So basically think of these as buckets. You're going to take what you earn and you're going to fill the first bucket, and then you're going to take what's left and fill the second bucket, and then take what's left and fill the third, and take what's left and fill the last. Now you might not make it to the last, but you're going to take this and fill up each bucket as you go along. So we're going to start with $60,000 for Dylan here. The first 10,000 is going to go in this first tier. So 10,000 goes into this bucket. So we're going to take 10,000 out because that's going to go to the first bucket, and we have $50,000 left over. Now we're going to pour this into the second bucket, so that's $30,000 into the second bucket. So $30,000 into the second bucket. Whoops, there you go. So minus $30,000 because that goes in the second bucket, and we have $20,000 left over. So that 20,000 is going to go into this next bucket. Now this next bucket has a limit of 30,000, so we're not going to fill it all the way up. We're only going to fill it up with as much as we can, which is $20,000. And then we're done, right? Because we can't fill it up 30,000 because we don't have $30,000 to fill it up with. So we're going to fill it up with as much as we can and then leave it. So this last bucket here gets nothing. I mean, if you want to put a zero there, you can. But basically, you're just going to ignore this last step here because you didn't have enough money to make it up to there. You only had enough money to make it up to the third bucket, and even then not fill it up. So you're going to times each bucket by the correct percentage rate for that bucket. 0.07, and then if you want to, again, this one we didn't have anything, but we can times it by 0.1 if you want. We're going to figure out how much each of these is, and then add them together. And this one's obviously going to be 0 because 0 times anything is 0. 10,000 times 0.03, we get 300. 30,000 times 0.05, so 30,000 times 0.05, we get 1,500. And then 20,000 times 0.07, and we get 14,000, or 1,400. So we add up all these numbers here, and we get a grand total of, let's see here, that'd be 30,200. So that would be how much money Dylan would pay in tax, would be $3,200. So that is how a graduated tax system works, is that you take the amount of money that you owe in taxes, you take your taxable income, and you fill up each bucket as you go down the line. And then, again, once you're done filling up all the buckets you can, you multiply each bucket by the correct percentage, and then add up how much is left, and that's how much you pay. Now, health insurance was also kind of different. So health insurance usually is given by an employer when you're employed, and your employer pays a portion of it, usually around 70%, and then the employee, aka you usually, pays the rest. So let's take Tatum here for example. So Tatum's employer provides health insurance at a cost of $6,500 annually. So the health insurance costs $6,500 annually, and the vision insurance, which is another type of health insurance, but the vision insurance costs $1,200 annually. The employer pays 75% of the health insurance and 50% of the vision insurance. Premium just means the cost. Just think of the word premium as cost. What is the total deduction Tatum pays for her insurance? So the deduction is basically what the company's paying, and then the rest of the money is what Tatum would pay. So let me show you that by numbers here. So $6,500, right? The company is going to pay 75% of that, so 0.75. And then for vision, $1,200, the company is going to pay 50% of that, or half of that. Now, this is for the company. So let's get our numbers here, and I'll show you how to label your answer here. So 6,500 times 0.75 would be 48.75. So 48.75, and then 1,200 times 0.5 would be 600. So we add these up together, and we get a grand total of, let's see here, 48.75 plus 600, 5,475. So that is how much the company is going to pay. So this is her company, the co. That's what they're going to pay. What Tatum would have to pay is the rest. So if the company pays 75% of this insurance, that means she's going to pay 25% of it. And if the company pays half of this, that means she's also going to pay the other half. So this is what Tatum would pay: $600 for vision, and then whatever 6,500 times 0.25 is, 500 times 0.25, 1625. So 1625. We add those up, and we get $2,225. Lots of twos in there. So this is how much money that Tate would pay, or Tatum would pay. Okay. So again, you might have to have two answers depending on what they ask you. If they ask you how much the company would pay, then you have this. If they ask you how much Tatum would pay, or what Tatum's deduction would be, that would be this, because this is the amount of money the company would take out of Tatum's income to pay for her stuff there. Now, usually this is done on a monthly basis, so you would actually take these numbers and divide it by 12. So I would take that would take 2,225 and divide it by 12, and that would be how much she would get taken out of each monthly paycheck. Would be $185.42 essentially, because the rest of it would be covered by the company itself. So again, when you're doing the health insurance, just make sure you know which one you're calculating, if you're calculating the person or if you're calculating the companies. FICA taxes are sometimes called payroll taxes. That's just Social Security and Medicare. These are just flat taxes that are paid by almost anybody who's employed. The thing about them is that they're actually twice as much as they're shown here. So this says Social Security is 6.2 and Medicare is 1.45. It's actually that Social Security is 12.4 and Medicare is 2.9. It's just that it gets cut in half because your employer pays half of that for you, quote unquote, and then you pay the other half. So usually we work with them with these percentages because in terms of calculating your own cost, you're going to be using half of the percentage because your employer is going to pay the other half themselves. This is one of the reasons why hiring people is so expensive for companies, is because they have to pay an additional Social Security and Medicare tax for each person that they hire because they have to cover their own portion of it. So let's put it all together here. Molly earns $860 a week. Find their net weekly pay given the following deductions. So we need to find her federal income tax, her FIT, using the table, her Social Security tax, her Medicare tax, 2% state tax, and $25 medical insurance. Well, this says here that she's going to pay $25 a week for medical insurance, so we don't really don't need to do any calculation for that one. Let's just work from the bottom up here. So state tax is 2%, so we can do that. We can do 860 times 0.02, not zero point 0.2, right? Because we don't want 20%, we want 2%. So 860 times 0.02, get 1720. That's how much money she's going to pay in state tax. For Medicare, we again take 860 times 0.0145. That's going to be her Medicare tax. So 860 times 0.0145. We get 1247. Social Security would be 860 times 0.062. So 860 times 0.062. We get 5332. 5332. And then the federal income tax using the table. So we're going to go to our table in our book on page A2. It doesn't say that she's married or single, so we're just going to assume that she's single. And then we're going to look in the table. Now again, obviously you can't see the table I'm looking at, but if you look in your book at the page A2 and A3, um, the left-hand side has the income ranges. So she gets a weekly income of $860. So you're going to look for where is the income range that contains 860, and it's actually on page A3. It's roughly about halfway down, a little bit less than halfway down. It's the 860, 870 range there. And if you look over for the zero allowances, that means that she's going to pay a grand total of $137 a week in federal income tax. All right. Again, if you need help seeing this, let me know, and I can get on a Zoom call real quick, or maybe we can do it on the next Zoom call. And I can show you exactly how to read that table. But all that's now left to do is we're going to add all these up. So we add all up these values, and we're going to figure out her weekly deductions. So 137 plus 53.32 plus 1247 plus 1720 plus 25, and we get a grand total of $244.99. So just shy of 245. All right. That's probably like the biggest problem you'll have in these situations, because that kind of combines all the different taxes and stuff that we have, minus the health insurance stuff, because that was kind of given for you in this problem. But yeah, that's it. So that's the end of this video. Hopefully it helped you out. Again, we're just going to kind of keep knocking out these reviews so that hopefully when the final comes, we're all set and ready to go. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. If you have any concerns, questions, comments, whatever like that, feel free to let me know, math or not, I guess. And then, yeah, just keep in touch and we will keep this rolling. So hopefully this helped you out. Have a good day. There it is.